Today we're going to conclude our study of Social Studies, Chapter 11 on Rome and Christianity with Lesson 3, The End of the Empire. The big idea today, problems from both inside and outside caused the Roman Empire to split into a western half, which collapsed, and an eastern half that prospered for hundreds of years. The three main ideas: many problems threatened the Roman Empire, leading one emperor to divide it in half. Rome declined as a result of invasions and political and economic problems. And in the Eastern Empire, people created a new society and religious traditions that were very different from those in the West. You're going to log into BrainPop through ClassLink and watch the fall of the Roman Empire, complete the quiz as well. So many problems that threatened the Roman Empire. At the height, the Roman Empire included all the land around the Mediterranean Sea. So it was a vast amount of land. The empire basically became too large to defend or even to govern efficiently. So Emperor Diocletian divided the empire in order to make it more manageable. So here you see a map of the expansion of Rome. This would be from 100 BC or BCE to AD 117. So, and this would be CE, Common Era, 117. So from 100 years before the year 0, or as we put it, as Christ's birth, or to 117 years after. So the Roman Republic would be all of this in orange. That would have been around 100 BC. And then at Caesar's death, all of this in gold added to it. Augustus's death in AD 14 would have been this tealish color added. And then the greatest extent of the empire would have included all of this in the light green as well. So all of this that you see colored would have been the Roman Empire by the year AD 117. Emperors gave up territory because they feared that the empire had become too large, yet new threats to the empire were appearing. Because so many people were needed for the army to defend all of this area, no one was left to farm the land. So if you'll think back to the very beginning, it's like we've always said, the farmers are the one that sustained. It got the civilization going and then sustained them. So now we're to a point in the Roman Empire, they have too many people to feed. They have too much land that they need to oversee to keep protected. So now they don't have as many farmers and they can't feed their people. So disease and high taxes threatened Rome's survival. Emperor Diocletian divided the empire because it was too big for one person to rule. And then Emperor Constantine reunited the two halves shortly after he took power. He moved the capital to the east into what is present-day Turkey. And the new capital was called, of course, after himself, Constantinople. Power no longer resided in Rome. It's now in Constantinople, which is in Turkey. You're going to come back and watch the Arch of Titus. Well, in the late 300s, and this would have been AD, a group, or CE, a group called the Huns invaded Europe. They were from Central Asia. And then the Goths fled from the Huns into Rome. they moved into Western Roman territory. And then additional attacks by more invaders made the empire weak. So you've got the Huns that are chasing the Goths, pushed them into Roman territory, and the Huns are still coming. So the Huns, like I said, pushed a group called the Goths into Rome, and the Goths had nowhere else to go. So they destroyed Rome after Rome quit paying them not to attack. Yes, you heard that right. Rome was paying the Goths not to attack Rome. Well, they quit paying them, so the Goths attacked. So the Goths sacked, which means they obliterated, they destroyed Rome in the year 410, or AD 410, CE 410. The Goths' victory encouraged other groups to invade the western half of the empire. They're like, well, if they can do it, we can do. So the Vandals, that's a group of people, they invaded Spain. They crossed into northern Africa, and they destroyed Roman settlements there. And then the Huns, remember those people that were chasing the Goths? Okay. Well, they were led by Attila. You may have heard of him, Attila the Hun. He raided most of the Roman territory in the east. And then Roman emperors became weak. Military leaders took power. And they did not protect the empire, however. So a barbarian general overthrew the last weak emperor in Rome. He named himself king in 476 CE AD. This event is considered the end of the Western Roman Empire. And barbarian just basically means anyone that wasn't a Roman. Okay, so like uncivilized people, they were barbarians. So the invasions of the Roman Empire from 340 to 500 AD/CE. In the green we have the Western Roman Empire, and this in this light orange color is the Eastern Roman Empire. And you can see all the different groups that invaded. So here are the Huns that we talked about. These are Visigoths, which is part of the Goths. You've got Ostrogoths and Visigoths, the Vandals, the Franks, the Saxons, the Angles, the Jutes. I mean, it just goes on and on. So it just basically weakened Rome each time an attack would take place. So the large size of the empire, we established the fact that made the empire hard to govern. And these are all factors that would have contributed to Rome's fall. So it was too large to govern. We've got the barbarian invasions, which weakened the empire. You had corruption, which is a decay of people's values, and politics, which led to inefficiency in government. Bribes and threats were often used to achieve goals, so you had a crumbling from within. You had wealthy citizens that began to leave Rome. This made life more difficult for those who remained. So, too large to govern, barbarian invasions, corruption from within, and the wealthy people started to leave. So, the Eastern Empire, however, grew in wealth and power, and people created a new society that was totally different from the society that was in the Western Roman Empire. We have this guy named Justinian. He wanted to reunite the old Roman Empire. He conquered Italy and much of the land around the Mediterranean. He examined Rome's laws and organized them into a legal system called the Justinianic Code, which removed out-of-date and un-Christian laws. Yes, you heard that correctly. And he simplified Roman law to give fair treatment to all. However, he made two enemies who would have run him out of Constantinople if his wife, Theodora, had not convinced him to stay. So this is one mention of a woman in history that actually had a huge impact. So Theodora was smart and powerful, and she advised Justinian on how to end the riots. And here's a depiction of Justinian and Theodora. So after Justinian died, the Eastern Roman Empire began to decline. So he kind of held it together. And then later emperors lost all the land Justinian had gained. In 1453, a group called the Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople, and that is what ended the Eastern Roman Empire. So the 1,000-year history of the Eastern Roman Empire came to an end then. But still, 1,000 years. So the Eastern society was called the Byzantine Empire. Eastern people studied Greek, not Latin, and people in the East and West began to interpret elements of Christianity differently. Eastern priests could get married, but Western priests could not. Religious services were performed in Greek in the East and Latin in the West, and the East broke away from the West and formed the Eastern Orthodox Church. So after viewing the following two image slides, this is the end of Lesson 11.3 and Chapter 11. So here's some of Rome's accomplishments. Government, of course, engineering, architecture, art, philosophy. So the government, importance of written laws, equal treatment for all citizens, rights and duties of citizens. They engineered excellent durable roads, strong bridges, aqueducts to move the water, and then building designs that inspired later societies. Architecture, large and strong buildings, columns and open spaces. Art, their realistic statues and lifelike portraits. And philosophy, focused on improving people's lives, and Stoic philosophy, emphasizing people's civic duty. And this just kind of sums it all up. So from the architectural wonder of the Colosseum in Rome to the New Testament of the Bible that tells the story of Jesus of Nazareth and his disciples, and then the Hagia Sophia, the enormous church built during Justinian's reign, which served as the spiritual center of the Byzantine Empire, which was the Eastern Roman Empire. And then we'll come back and you'll watch that video later.